Hello and welcome back to the Christian Reeve podcast, and welcome Mr. Donte Hawkins back to the show. For those who don't remember, he is a content creator. He does a lot of different cool things. Today, that we're talking about video games, aren't we?
Yep,
Possibly.
that is correct.
Yeah, as with always with my show, there's a lot of reschedules, there's a lot of moving parts. That's just part of podcasting in general. And this show actually, particularly, was planned a long time ago, I think. And we were trying to catch each other, and we finally got it down. Here we are. And yeah, I don't know. It's kind of an interesting one, this, because when I sat down doing the research for it and everything, I was like, huh, we've all got like a personal journey with video games, probably. Some people it's like really important. Maybe it's even their life, you know. For others, it's like, oh, I did this when I was
Mhm.
younger, etc. Um, I guess what I would like to start with, actually, let's back it up a second. How are you doing, man? How are you? I forgot to ask. That's always the first question. How are you doing? I went straight to business for some
Oh, it's
reason.
okay.
I was like, yeah, no.
I'm doing right. I'm doing really good, actually. This has been an interesting year, to say the least. Lots of ups and downs, but I'm grateful to be here, grateful to be alive. I'm excited to be on your podcast again. And for those of you who did not see the first episode of our, talking together, I recommend checking that out because there's a lot of good gems in that. And I'm excited just to, like you said, like dive further into video games and, um, kind of like the pathway into like the different platformers I was playing and how it influenced my art and everything like that. But I've been great. How have you been?
um, kind of the same as you, man. Lots of ups and downs. Lots. Um, I was thinking about this actually on the way back because I just dropped my girlfriend off at the station. She's like heading back home, and I was just like, there's a lot that I'm grateful for. There's a lot
Mhm.
of moving parts in my life right now. And the way I feel about things changes like daily. So it's like one day you'll have like
Mhm.
seemingly just a good day, maybe even a good week. And then it all kind of goes a bit haywire and everything's out of place and you barely feel like you're on top of it all. But normally it's like you have like a small period of that and then it gets back to normal. Whereas for me in the last sort of 8 months, I would say it's been more challenging than sturdy. And it's been difficult to stay on top of things and to try and be positive, to try and keep moving forward. I mean, like even with this show, for example,
Mhm.
there was part of me that was like, should I even keep doing this? Why am I doing this?
Mhm.
And it's funny, like how you mentioned about the first show that we did together, because I've done a lot of these shows now. I've done a lot of interviews over the years, and the one thing that I remember right off the bat is how positive you were and how much
Mhm.
advice there was in that show. Because for those who don't remember, Dante is a lot younger than he looks. Oh, sorry. No, the other way around. He's older than you think he is. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
vampire.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, lots of wisdom there, and I know from one person to another, I know where that comes from. It comes from the hard times.
Mhm.
It teaches you a lot, and you ultimately have a choice of like how you choose to deal with life, how you choose to approach life, how you choose to kind of take things. It's like they say, a lot of it comes down to how you choose to react to what's happening around you. You know, I've said this in live streams before that I think positivity is not about walking around with a smile on your face. It's more about trying to look at a situation, even if it's a difficult one, and to try and pull the positives out of it, to try and find that positive outlook, no matter how dire and difficult things might be. Sometimes times are just bad, like
Yeah.
simply put, they are just bad. But I think it's worth it to try and have that mentality And to steer it into today's conversation, I think video games are an interesting metaphor for life and a good form of escapism. Now, the escapism angle, I think, is obvious. You know, it's you can enter different worlds, you can become characters, you can lose yourself for a little bit and not have to deal with the worries of the world for a bit. But in terms of like when you form a deeper connection with video games, I think a lot of it comes down to perseverance. For example, if you're playing
Hmm.
like an FPS and you're building a character, you build them from scratch. They start at nothing. They're like, your weak default character just sucks. And you build them and build them and build them and build them. And then by the time you face that final boss, you think about everything that's gotten you there. Like when you defeat them, you're like, wow, like we went through all these different things and now we're here and like, it was worth it.
hmm Yeah, I know that whole, can I just say like that whole character creation process is probably one of my favorite things to do because it can also be challenging for me to move on from that too because I'm just so into like the hair detail. I want to make sure that the eyes are right. So I may spend a good whole 6 hours just trying to figure out the character. And it's like, okay, I probably should play this game now.
It's like I've seen, those like let's plays of like Skyrim and stuff online. There'll always be that like first episode legit where they're just spending time working on the character. Like that's one episode, 50 minutes. But it's tricky because I mean, especially if you want to do like kind of role play and you want to build a character arc, a backstory for this character. You are going to spend more time looking at the details, I think.
Hmm.
Makes it more fun, makes it more interesting. Um, you know. But and that's another fun thing about video games, isn't it? Is like there's no necessarily right or wrong way to play them. There's more effective ways to play video games.
Hmm.
But I think the beauty of like an FPS, and this is why it's my favorite, is that you get to choose how you can approach the game. Like my favorite thing with Skyrim is that you could go out and be an outright just brawler. You could fight everyone and cause wars, or you could choose to be a thief, a sneak, that kind of like Splinter Cell style assassin, or you could be a magician. I mean, like the possibilities are endless. But the fun part about that
Hmm.
is that ultimately dictates how you approach a situation. So like I can remember just countless hours of sitting there going like, oh, I could just run through these caves and just annihilate everyone, or I can take longer because I'm an assassin and I hide in the shadows and I maybe even I don't kill all the people. I just try to like avoid being detected, and I don't know. I just think it adds to the fun of it. Maybe.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. Like the amount of possibilities that you can do just with the different character arcs and prototypes, and then that can even change like the story, like the course of the story later on. Sometimes I'm just like, how do y'all even think about all this stuff? But hey, it's games.
Here's a fun question. Let's take it right back to the beginning.
Mhm.
What was your first gaming memory?
Ooh, I would say Sonic on Sega.
No way.
Wait, is this yours too?
Yeah, that's weird. Wow. Okay, you share yours first. I'll share mine after. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I remember like just having the cartridges and blowing the dust out of them and then inserting the cartridges into the system. And I would just remember just having fun, like going super fast with Sonic, not knowing what I was doing. And that time I didn't really understand the mechanics and all that kind of stuff. I was just playing it just to have fun. And I can't even remember how far I'd gotten, but I definitely did not beat the game.
Yeah.
Um, I may have reached Eggman a couple of times, but no, that I end up losing a lot. So, but I just remember just having fun, right?
Yeah.
And trying to collect all the rings I could, trying to jump over all these obstacles and things like that. And then I also remember, forgive me because I don't remember all the games, but I remember playing as Tails too. He may
Yep.
have been in the second or third game, I don't know. But and then Knuckles.
Yes. Oh, Knuckles was my favorite, man. Oh.
Yes, mine too. And I just remember just having a blast. But I will say this, one of the most challenging levels for me was like the underwater levels.
Oh,
Like
everyone
for
hates
whatever reason.
those.
And yeah, and still to this day, underwater levels are just my weakness.
I hated
So
them in the Mario games. It just used to suck. Like and it gets thrust upon you as well, and you're like, ah, why? Because the mechanics will always suck as well. Because it's never. Do you know what I mean? Like I remember in those Mario games, like you kind of had to time it right, and if you didn't, you just kept dying over and
yes,
over and over again.
yes. It almost seems like in Sonic, because I played like the newest one. I think they like remastered for PS4, Sonic
Sick.
Mania. And I'm like, why can I not get through these underwater levels? It's like I have to be perfect. Like it's just crazy. And so needless to say, that game has retired on me. Like I'm just like, I can't do this right now. It's just too difficult. And so I think in any game, you just kind of have to know like when you can persevere through some things, and then when it's like, okay, I just need to take a break, or just when you just need to give it up altogether. Because I've definitely had those games too.
So I'll share my first few memories. I believe my very first memory is definitely in the 90s. That's how old I am. Um, Same as you. I think it was Sonic 2. I'm pretty sure it
Mm,
was Sonic 2. And I remember playing it on a we called it Sega Mega Drive here in Europe. But I know it's Sega Genesis in
hmm
America.
hmm
Um, and yeah, I remember playing it, and same as yourself, like just being blown away by the speed and the characters. I don't really recall if I completed or not. Probably not. I remember like playing Sega Master System, and there was like a shooting game where there was
hmm
like you're in a shooting range and you're shooting the targets. I remember that. I remember just this memory of playing that and then eating chalk ices from my grandparents' freezer and making myself sick because I had too many. Yeah. I also remember playing PlayStation 1 for the first time, and
hmm
I didn't quite understand hand-eye coordination. And there was an
hmm
adult there with me trying to explain it and getting frustrated because I didn't get it. But I was like, I didn't understand. Like, I was like, well, how am I supposed to know what I'm doing if I take my eyes away? Like, what? Like, do you know that just teaching hand-eye coordination is difficult? It's like, no, no, no. You've got to take your eyes
Yeah.
away and look at the screen. And I'm like, but how do I know it? What? And like now it's easy. Like you just do it. Same with like playing guitar. I do that. You know what I mean? Like you don't even think about it. But there's that initial learning curve, and I think in a
hmm
fun way, I feel like that's one of the first times that you learn how to let go and just trust the
Yeah.
process, which is crazy.
Yes. Yes.
I also
Yeah.
remember
That
playing
whole process, because
go on.
oh, go ahead. No, that whole process of going from Sega, and then like you, I did have the PlayStation, and I even have some memorabilia here. Like,
Oh, oh, gorgeous. That's a
yeah,
particular line, isn't it? The was it the classics range or great? Yeah, was that say greatest hits? Yeah,
yep, yep, yep.
sick.
And so, like, even I would say Crash Bandicoot, like, first, like, this game is
Mm,
still one of the most challenging games for me because, like you were saying, like, the hand-eye coordination thing was thrown off. And even still to this day, I'm like, why did y'all put the camera up there? But again, they had all these, like, limitations and stuff that they could do at that time that now, we wouldn't, it would be way better, right? But
mm,
at that time, but I appreciate it though. I still
yeah,
appreciate that this is one of the craziest games. It makes me want to pull my hair out. Like if I had long hair like you, all my hair would be on the floor because this game is ridiculous. And then Spyro, this game,
yeah.
um, what's this one? Ripto's Rage. This one was much more, I would say, carefree when I was playing this one because it still had its hard moments, but it was just way more like exploration, like that exploration type of game. And so I still don't know if I completed it, but anyway. But those are like just some memories that I just had to pull out because I knew we were talking about games.
That's an interesting one as well. Like the need to complete a game versus just playing it. Like I
hmm
had the same as you. I played so many games where I didn't necessarily complete them. Like that became a thing as you got older because you wanted to kind of see what happens.
hmm
As you get older. Like I've always been more drawn by the story. Like I loved the Call of Duty games for their stories. I loved Skyrim. I loved Fable and countless others. Halo. And with those older games, I think I might have completed Crash Bandicoot 1. I remember playing Warped quite a few times and not really completing it. The second one with the polar bear and you just drive yourself nuts with it. But it's charming. There's like a replayability
Yeah.
factor as well. Like you can play it now and get just as much fun. But I feel like it's not as special as when you're older. Like the way you interact with things is different. Like you don't get the same feeling. It's a bit like the first time you ever had like that chocolate that you love. It's never as good as like the first time you had it.
Hmm.
It'll be nice, but it won't
Yeah.
be the same. And I feel like a lot of video games when you get older is like that. But with that being said, it still has that kind of magic of, hey, I'm just sitting here chilling playing video games. This is cool. This is
Hmm.
nice. This is like I remember reading about how Henry Cavill prefers to just do that rather than going out, and like I totally get it. Like I love to go out and hang out and listen to music and stuff, but like for instance, today it's raining outside, and I thought like, oh, I could go see a gig, or I could just stay in and just chill and do online stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I just do that.
Yeah, I think it's just all about like your interests and in life as you grow older, your interests will change. Like for this is a perfect example. Since we're talking about video games, like for the past couple 2 to 3 months, I haven't been gaming like I usually have. Like it's just been like every once in a while. And in the beginning, I was like, what's going on with me? Like I usually like am gaming every weekend and I just think I'm just in a different season. And I think it's important just to realize when it's like I just want to take a break from some things, or you maybe want to work on some things internally within yourself. And I think I've definitely done that in this time frame. So yeah, like your interests change, things change, and it's okay if you don't do the same things that you used to do. Actually, in fact, it's gonna change, whether we like it or not. Life is gonna change. So
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, I mean, it's deep, man. I thought we'd just get to video games, but you take it to that deep place. Yeah, fine, let's do it. No, I mean, there's a lot of like I mentioned before, like metaphors about life with gaming, isn't there? Like perseverance, and it reminds me a bit of skateboarding. Like when I was younger, I used to do that a lot, and this sense of like never giving up, pushing through, persevering. Sometimes you leave it, you come back to it, and you approach it with a totally different mindset. Um, and yeah, sometimes you don't play at all, and that's okay. It's just part of it. How does modern gaming compare with classic gaming?
yeah, I would definitely say the modern games that I played, like for example, like recently. I've been really playing like I just started Cyberpunk 2077 and that's very like futuristic cyber type of game. And I still yet to understand what I'm really doing because I'm still in the beginning of the game. But there's just a lot of things to it that you can do. Like you can upgrade your weapons from inside the menu. You can fast travel. I mean, it's just countless things. Of course, they have the autosave function. You can still manually save. You can backtrack. I mean, it's like do surveillance through cameras. I mean, that wouldn't have been possible like in these good days. And if they tried to do that, it would be like, no, it wouldn't have worked out. So I just think for one, the technology has changed, and I think it has advanced. I think that there are a lot of benefits to the advance, and I think also like just the way that games are built, like studios, how they built games are a lot different than again, kind of going back to the limitations of these days. They didn't have a lot of things that they could do. For example, like the polygons and stuff in this game is way low res compared to this day and time. And so the technology advancing, the amount of people working in that particular game. It's like there's larger companies working on there's indies and there's larger companies, and they have different types of games. Um, but that's just like a thing in itself, right? The different types of games, the genres of games. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. But I will say I like all of it. And that's one of the reasons why I like playing these older games too, because it reminds me like of that time period where they didn't have all the resources. And I think that's what makes me appreciate it more.
I know what you mean. There's a sense of innocence, and maybe it's because it's our childhood. It could be that. Um, in a weird kind of way, having everything almost isn't as good. I mean, I feel like it was kind of better when you had those limitations in a weird kind of way. I don't know. I mean, it sounds crazy, but like I don't know. I felt like I was happier then. But then we were kids, so maybe that's why. I don't know. Um, but then I don't know. There's a lot that I don't like about modern gaming, and I know things change, but like there's a few things I want to go through here with you because, and it, maybe people will disagree, but I quite frankly don't like it. So I want to start with pricing. Now I don't know what it was like stateside, but I would imagine because we're again, yeah, I think you're actually older than me, aren't you? I'm 31.
I-
You're
I'm
30.
30,
You're 30. Okay, so
30.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
like a year difference. So same age, grew up with the same games, all that, but stateside England. I would imagine price wise, they would have been about the same. So, for example, when we were kids in like the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, and you were buying like PlayStation, PlayStation 2, etc., Xbox 360, I remember games never being more than about £40, or I guess it'd be about $50, give or take, maybe 55, something around that. Like, what was the average for like a new game when you were growing up?
In that time.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wasn't even paying attention to that. I was like, Mom, I want this game. Can I have this game? It's really like, oh, okay, sure, So I don't think I really came into like the full realization of the price until like I started getting games myself. And then that's when I was like, okay, I'm just gonna wait until they decrease the price. Or I'm just not gonna get it when it first comes out. So I think that's the thing that kind of helps with me in like when newer games come out, I don't get them instantly. I just kind of wait.
I'm the same. I did the same as you because I grew up pretty poor, so we couldn't really afford like stuff like to do that. Yeah, like once in a blue moon, you might get lucky like at Christmas or something. You save up something like that. Often I would save like things like birthday money or Christmas money, like for half a year, and like do it that way. Or like yourself, wait for a game to go down in price. I used to take advantage of places like Blockbuster who did like trade-in schemes. So you trade in all your old games, get store credit, which would often be more than just getting cash, and then you could get newer games that way.
Hmm.
Um, you know, and yeah, like yourself, I wasn't that fussed about getting the game when everyone else had it. I was like, well, I'll get it, and I'll get it for cheaper, and I'll still enjoy it. So who cares? But yeah, well, if we're being real, like, do you know what I mean? But the other side of that though was that back then I felt like it was more affordable. And yeah, I know I sound old, like
Hmm.
back in my day it was better. But here's the reality, kids: 40, $50, 40, 50 quid. Um, that was the set price for quite a while, and then it shifted. And now we're in a place where I don't even really understand. Like, I do appreciate because you laid it out before about how there's a lot of different types of games. So you can still get games for
Hmm.
cheap, but often there'll be indie games, lesser known games, and it's good to have that kind of variety. But if you want the top games, like for example, I want to get GTA 6 when it comes out. But to do that, I'm going to have to get a console, which I know is going to be a huge investment. And I'm prepared to do that. I did it with GTA 5. I'll do it with GTA 6 and I'll get back into things. But see, like back when I was growing up, you invested in a console and it'd be like around £300, something like that. So maybe like $350.
Hmm.
It's an investment. You know you're going to get a lot out of it. You weigh it up that way. Now we're looking at like I don't even want to think about it. Probably £600, dollars. It's a lot. Still same investment process, but the difference is you get charged for everything now. And like, I know like Xbox 360 used to do it back in the day. Like, oh, we're going to charge you like £15 or $20 for like a headset. All right, fine. But like, it's only $20, right? Whereas now that'll be like double that, right?
Hmm.
And if you're lucky, you'll get the console with one game and your controller, and that is pretty standard as a offering. I know they still do that, but now the landscape's changed where if you want those big games, you buy the game, but then you don't own the physical game. You own like a download for it, and it's all online. and you have to now buy the hard drives for it and like all this computer hardware. And it makes me, on one hand, I'm like, why not just do PC gaming? What's the point of even doing console gaming at this point? If you have to buy all these add-ons and stuff, it might as well just do gaming, like PC gaming. Um, and that whole divide is, they say that consoles have died now. And to be honest, when you look at it like that, I can kind of see why people would say that. But and I know I'm like a broken record here, but the pricing is insane now. It's crazy
Yeah.
for a game new. I mean, okay, let's look at what's just off the top of your head, a new game that's come out that's currently available. Like, I'll just Google the price real quick. Anything, just something new.
Anything?
Literally
Um,
anything. I don't know.
even if it came out last year.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't matter. Let's
Okay,
just find
Spider-Man
something.
2.
All right, Spider-Man 2. That's a good one. All right, so Spider-Man 2 game, the PS5. Um, Here it says it's about £70 new,
Mhm.
and it's been out for a year.
It's probably the same over here too.
So yeah, it'd be about, if it's £70, so like 85, $90, something like that. It's quite a markup when you do pound versus dollar. But it's like worked out about the same. Like, in fairness, every country will be about the same. They'll price it the same for fairness, which is cool.
Right.
But that's double what we used to pay. And all right, fine. I know people will argue, well, that's just the price, Christian. Things have changed. Grow up, granddad. And I'm like, all right, fine. But I always look at things like the average person should be able to afford it. It shouldn't be
Hmm.
to the point where you have to take out maybe a loan, do installments, save up for like 2 years to do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was talking to a friend about gig tickets the other day, and
I
we had
agree.
the same principle. Sorry, principle. The same ideas about how expensive a gig should be. And like gigs here these days, I mean, like the Oasis came back, for example, and the average for a standing ticket, right? So you're standing probably in a field somewhere, or maybe it's a gig ticket, but you're standing for 2 hours, about £150. So like $170, 175
Hmm.
for a 2 hour gig. And yeah, people go, okay, it's Oasis, it's a huge band, once in a lifetime opportunity. Okay, cool. But even like artists like I don't know, let's take like a Sabrina Carpenter or Taylor Swift or whoever else is big, Beyonce, I don't know. Like, you're still looking at probably upwards of $100, £100, something like that. And I start to look at that like, well, it's super, super expensive for your average person. Because your average person is not earning like a ton. You're probably living within your means. Maybe you got a little bit of extra disposable income at the end of every month, and
Hmm.
that's great. But then you've got to do things like save. You got to do things like, you know what I mean. Like, you got to have a buffer. You got to kind of think about other things. Maybe you've got kids. Maybe you've got family. Maybe you've got other commitments. Or just you're saving just to cover your back in case something happens. There's all these different things you have to think about. And I think there should always be, you know, you should always look at like, I need to leave some time for luxury, whatever that luxury is, be it
Hmm.
sports, gaming, activities, like a hobby you have, like whatever. Like, don't ever feel bad about spending money on doing that stuff. Never feel bad about that. But I do look at it sometimes and I'm like, damn, like this is just crazy. Like, when I do eventually get back into gaming like properly, I don't know. I guess I'm just gonna have to take a big hit and just not think about it. But I miss those days when you could just go buy a game and now you own that. You own that forever. You know?
Yeah. I think it's just, I think mainly that's probably why I do have some games that are digital only.
Hmm.
But I think that I always will like the physical copy games. Me for whatever reason, like I just like having that physical thing with me,
Same.
you know. And I actually agree with everything you just said, by the way. I do feel like it is too expensive. And you shouldn't have to break the bank to pay for something that's like luxury, or you know what I mean? Like it's just crazy, like the prices have skyrocketed, and it's just like, okay, like. I already know that they're probably in development of the PlayStation 6. I don't plan on
Probably.
getting it. Now, I know that might be absurd to some people, but I already have like five systems. I mean, and the PS5 was already like $500. So like, I don't want to invest my money into a new system when I already kind of feel like they should, with the systems we already have, they should find a way to incorporate those games. Like I know I think to some degree they might have backwards compatibility and stuff, but I just don't want to buy a whole new system and then just like 4 years later have another one, you know?
You've hit on something really, really important as well, because it used to be that it took a long time before the next console came out,
Hmm.
you know, a long time. I feel like PS5 came out way too soon. And when it did come out, it's interesting because people couldn't afford it. People couldn't get it, right? Because it was like so heavily just people, there was a lot of demand for it, and that's fine, right? But, and I don't know if it's any different now, but like how I used to remember things is like you'd have your Xbox exclusives, your PlayStation exclusives, PC exclusives, right? I'm sure that's still a thing, but to the from what I remember, if memory serves me correctly, when the PS5 came out, there wasn't any exclusives. It was just the same games that were on PS4 that were like produced for PS5. So I think I just seem to recall like you could get Spider-Man 2, or
Yeah.
possibly the Miles Morales one,
Hmm.
and but it was the
And
same on
Ratchet and Clank Rift
PS4.
Apart. I think that's like the only one. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Because you
like
can't play Rift Apart on PS4.
fine, but it's like
Mhm.
there's barely any games to play, and people
Yeah.
still to this day play PlayStation 4 and probably will for years to come. And I'm
I
just
still
like,
do.
yeah, well, that's the thing. Why would you need to? Why would you need to own the PS5 if you're still playing the PS4? Everyone else is playing the PS4. Most people can't maybe afford to play the PS5.
Right.
It's crazy. Do you know what I mean? Because like back in the day, like when people moved from like PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2, like, all right, fair enough, there was a big difference there, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
what was the difference? The difference was the different types of games you could play. There's better graphics. There's more 3D based games, more FPS, more RPGs, just more options. It's not like people completely abandoned PlayStation. It's just you slowly migrated from PS2, from PS1 to PS2, and then from PS2 to PS3, and then so on. Right? It was like slow migration, and it made sense over time to do that. Whereas I feel like now, just like every other industry out there, right? There's way too much money in it. And that feels to me like what it's become about. And it's sad to see because gaming at its core is about having fun,
Yeah.
right? But when companies get involved with that and they see dollar signs, I mean, it just takes over. I mean, you just have to look at that with like how sometimes you have to buy all the DLC for a game to actually own the full game. And it's like, that's bullshit. I've just spent, I don't know how many pounds, dollars on the game, and now I've got to buy all this DLC so that I can play the game. So the base price is not, say, $100, it's actually $180. It feels like a lie,
Hmm.
you know?
I trust you. I get what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
that, and then there's the fact that like, okay, what you were saying before about you have to own the downloads, you don't own the physical game anymore. Okay, well, let's say you got a problem with the Wi-Fi. Let's say you can't get internet. How do you play the game? Now, I know this is different with games like, say, like Red Dead Redemption, something like that, right?
Right.
But then if it's just like a game that's purely based online, which a lot of games are now, you can't play that game. You own that game, but you can't play it
Nope.
because you don't have access to the internet. And this is the thing. This is something that's really taken for granted. We've got people all around the world gaming. I have friends in like, say, South Africa, right? And they have issues with Wi-Fi just being turned off. It's a thing that happens in Africa. It's crazy. My very first guest that was on the podcast, shout out to Buckmaster Cole, he told me about this and I just couldn't get my head around it. He was like, yeah, yeah, for a few hours every day they turn off the Wi-Fi. And I was like, what do you mean they turn off the Wi-Fi? And it's like, the government turns off the Wi-Fi.
What?
It's a thing. Look it up. It's crazy. And obviously it made it really difficult for us to do podcasts together because it's like
Right?
because he's like, oh, we have to. choose a time where the Wi-Fi will be a bit better, and I'm like, okay, we made it work. But this is my point. Like, it's a lot of the time it's under this assumption that you've got all of these different things.
Mhm.
But at least back in the day, like you could own the game, and now you just own it, and you can play
Yeah.
it whenever you want. That's awesome. And
I,
then the internet was like an optional thing.
I will say too, I think another thing that's helped me beyond just like waiting until the price decreases is because in those moments when the games were at lower prices and I did get them, like I have a whole, I don't know how many games I have. So in that time that that's why I think that's another thing that helps me instead of buying the game right away. I play other games that I do have, you know, and then it's like, oh, I can wait. I got like 80 games over here. I ain't got to rush into it. And maybe to some people that's like, well, you're missing out on the experience of it. But it's like getting it like right away. But it's like I can wait. Like I don't need it. It's gonna be the same when I get it. Like, yeah.
This is a solid point. I think so much of it is FOMO, fear of missing out.
Mhm.
Because it's like, oh, I need to have this thing because everyone else has got it.
I
When
don't.
by the time you play it, everyone else won't be playing it. Yeah, they will.
Right.
I mean, Christ, like they shut down the Battlefield, Star Wars Battlefront servers for the original games. I think it was like
Mhm.
within the last 10 years, maybe a little
Okay.
bit less. But that was a PlayStation 2, Xbox 360 game. People were still playing it all those years later. Why? Because they were great games, and people could see that, and people wanted to keep playing them. You know,
Yeah,
and
there's
like
this like problem with instant gratification type of
precisely.
fear of missing out. Like, I gotta get it right away. I gotta get the newest upgrade. I gotta get the newest spec. I gotta get the newest thing because I don't want to miss out. And it's like, well, maybe for some time I was on that train when I was younger because that's when I was excited. I was like, oh, I'm gonna play it. But it's just gotten to the point where, like you said, the prices have skyrocketed, and I ain't got time for that. I ain't about to spend all my money on some games, and I can just wait for them to decrease. And other games that I have, I can just be like, you know what? I'll wait.
This is the thing as well. You mentioned Cyberpunk 2077, right? I think
77.
that's what. Yeah.
Mhm.
So when that game came out, it was full of bugs and it was
Yes.
awful, and everyone bought it and it sucked, and they had to spend the better part of a year or two fixing it. And this isn't even like I know I'm preaching to the choir here for a lot of people like watching this, listening to this. They'll be like, "Oh, this is old news. Everyone knows this." And it's like, yeah, but like, come on. If you really just sit and think about it, we didn't have those issues back in the day. The game was the game,
Right.
and
Right.
if there were glitches and problems, it was kind of fun. You find them, right? But it didn't
Mhm.
ruin the experience. But when you've spent that much money on a new game and you're really excited, especially if you're older, you're an adult and maybe you spent the last bit of your paycheck on this and you're really excited to play this game. You finally get to sit down and play it, and the game's just broken. And it just
Yeah.
doesn't work. Like, for example, I didn't play it myself, but I saw the videos for it, and it kind of, I looked at it like, oh, I probably won't bother getting it then. The definitive edition remasters of the GTA original trilogy, so GTA
Mhm.
3, Vice City, and San Andreas. All classics. Core gaming memories for myself. I don't know if you played them. Did you play them?
I have not played them.
Oh,
I
bro.
played like maybe like a little bit of Vice City
One
and a
day
little yeah.
when if you can get your hands on the originals, sit down and play those games, man.
Okay.
Worth your while. But this is a beloved trilogy.
Okay.
This was like the Grand Theft Auto series. I mean, there's a reason GTA 5 was big anyway before it kind of became what it became. I know it became almost like an industry in of itself. I understand that, but when the game just was released in 2013, like I went out and got myself a console just so I could play it because I knew how good those GTA games were.
Hmm.
And ironically, it wasn't actually the best out of all of them, but it was still good. Like it was cool. They always try something a little bit different. They were always pretty ambitious. I know the original Rockstar team is gone now, and it's just new people. I understand that, and things change. It became about money and the online experience and blah blah blah. I understand, but fact of the matter is, it's a beloved series for a reason because it was innovative, because it tried something a bit different, and people connected with it. And if nothing else, it was fun to play, which is kind of the whole point of games. I mean, there's a reason why like you can still play like Tetris and still enjoy it after all these years because it's a fun game. It's just fun. So they got this original trilogy, they remaster it, everyone's excited, and then they play it, and it just looks like ass. It's just straight ass, just like I mean, because they used like an engine. I think they used the is it the PUBG engine or something like that to do it, which is cool. It still had the same kind of game mechanics as the original games, but like in this new system. So it's supposed to look sleek and cool and everything. And this is part of a bigger problem in the gaming industry now is how everything is about graphics rather than the game itself. It's like, oh, aren't the graphics great? Aren't they amazing? Look at how beautiful they are. And it's like, who cares? If the game sucks, the game sucks. You know, I don't. It's like if there's a shit in my toilet, I don't marvel at how clean the rest of the toilet is. It's like there's still a shit in the toilet. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
sorry to be so crude, but like you get my
no, it's
point.
not,
Like
yeah.
it's it's just disappointing because I think about the average person. I think about
Mhm.
kids that are excited for that, or adults who remember those core gaming memories from when they were a kid, and then they get that, and then they're like, the developers just didn't think it was worth putting the time in. Like this laziness with game making now. You see it in the movie industry as well with CGI, and it's like I don't understand this laziness. Some people put it down to like, oh, well, people are just not getting paid enough, and it's like, whatever happened to like quality assurance? Like, whatever happened to just sitting down and being like, I mean, because there's still video games testers, people
Mhm.
testing games out before they get released. How on earth were those games allowed to market? I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't either. I can't fully put it on this right now because the game industry, for those of you who don't know, the game industry is going through it right now. Like the amount of layoffs that are happening and like it's just crazy going on out here. But to your point, this was like years when layoffs wasn't happening, when it was pretty much on a more stable ground, And so it's just interesting to know how games have evolved. But then in the same way, it's like like what you were saying, like the graphics can be good, but the story is not speaking to you, if it's not resonating to you, then it doesn't really matter how good the graphics are because the reason that you're playing the game was just to have a full great experience with the graphics, with the story. But I would tell you this over a heartbeat. If it was between story and graphics, I would pick the story all day. Because I've actually played some games that have been like, for say, bad graphics,
Mm-hmm.
for whatever the case may be. But the story was phenomenal. So, I mean, that just goes to show you, like, games are just interesting in themselves, right? I
Yeah.
mean, they're just interesting. And so I think just kind of like you were saying, like the amount of money that it takes to make a game these days is crazy. The amount of money for people to buy games is crazy. So it's just crazy all over the board.
Yeah, and I understand that, but as you said, like it's affecting the industry, and I think that I don't want to be like Captain Negativity, but I think we're headed for a crash. You know, it happened in the '80s, and why did it happen in the '80s? Well, because all the companies saw an opportunity to make a ton of money, and they did, and they produced a lot of trash, and the market was oversaturated, and it
Mhm.
caused a massive crash, and lots of companies lost out, and there was people that thought that that would be the it for games, and it wasn't. A few companies survived, they pushed through and evolved, and we are where we are now. But I feel like we're headed towards the same place. It is oversaturated. There are too many games. They are getting more and more and more and more expensive, you know. And I always look at things like how far is too far?
Mhm.
Like for instance, drinking here in the UK. I was talking to a friend about it the other day. How expensive would a pint have to be before you just went, I just won't go out anymore? You know what I mean? Because I mean,
Mhm.
with that, you're paying for an experience. You're paying. You want to sit there, have a few drinks with your buddies, and whatever, have a good chat. You go to a gig and have a drink, whatever. Right? I know you don't drink, but I'm just saying, like the experience, like
Yeah, I understand.
whatever. Like it could be with anything as well. Like you go to the cinema, you get popcorn and hot dogs, and that's crazy expensive. Or yeah, everything is. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a lot of the time people will get prepared before they come out or bring their own
Mhm.
snacks, stuff like that. But there's a limit to these things, and I think that with gaming, sooner or later there's going to be a point where people just go, "Oh, it's just not worth it. I'll either wait or I just maybe I won't play that game." You know?
There have even been some people because I'm very well connected with people in the game industry on LinkedIn, and so I'm seeing a lot. Sometimes I have to be careful and like log out of that because you can get like depressed even looking at the stuff that's happening in the industry right now. But when I do log in, it's to just kind of like check in on people and just to see what's going on. And a lot of times, like I mean, just the things that are going on now, people are like saying, I'm walking away from the game industry. People that have worked 10 plus years because of the things that's just going on. Like the people are feeling disrespected from mergers and acquisitions that bought off maybe like smaller companies. And they're like, well, you're not going to treat me like that. I spent all this time and energy put into this game and you're just going to lay me off. I mean, there's just stuff. It's just crazy on both sides of the spectrum here. I'm interested to see how in both sides, like from the player perspective, how we were talking about like prices, inflation, all different types of games. I'm looking to see how that's going to change in the next couple of years, and I'm also looking in the game industry perspective, like how that's going to change in a couple of years too, because right now it is sinking sand. So. But I do believe also because I want to work in the game industry, that hasn't gone anywhere. I still think that there are opportunities for us out there, but you do have to be realistic in seeing where it is right now, where games are right now, and I just think it's just interesting how things have times have changed basically, right? And then how what's going to be in the future for games. I don't think they're going to totally die, but I do think there's going to be a big change, and it's already happening already with the games and studios, that are closing. There are a lot of studios too that are opening, like indie studios too. They're like, oh, I'm opening my own studio right now, and so I think just on both spectrums, I like to keep in mind like if this is the industry you want to get into, we have to know not just the fluffiness. We also have to know like the realness of what's going on the player side and on like actually into the industry.
My follow-up question was going to be about like, what do you think the future of video games will look like? You've touched on it a little bit there, but you
Hmm.
raised a really good point there that I want to kind of delve into with that along that same thought process.
Hmm.
You said that more of these indie companies are forming and setting up. I mean, I'll ask you in a second, but I think that's where it will be heading. Is that
Hmm.
people will embrace those indie games more so because they'll be more affordable, yeah,
Hmm.
and people ultimately will go for what's affordable. Like here in
Hmm.
the UK, for example, the entire supermarket industry, I know this is of all examples, right? Supermarket industry has changed. It used to be that companies like, say, Tesco were considered the cheaper alternative, or Asda, right? Um, Fun fact, they're owned by an American company. I believe they're owned by Walmart. So there you go.
Oh.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. And they used to be known for being a really cheap supermarket. Now they're expensive, same as Tesco. And who are the considered the nation's favorite now? Lidl and Aldi, which are owned by, I believe, European companies, right? But the point is, they're the cheapest. Therefore, they are the ones that people mostly shop at. It's not to say the other
Hmm.
supermarkets aren't shopped at, they are, but your average person is going to go where they can afford to go. Now,
Right.
taking it back to gaming, okay, fair enough. Gaming is a luxury, so I understand the way you approach it is a little bit different. However, as we mentioned before, there is a limit to these things. You know, you have to select a price point that works for people. And when it stops working for people, I don't know. I feel like there might be a protest of sorts amongst gamers because it's like, if games start getting to a point where it's too expensive and there's the consoles, the systems, whatever you get for PC gaming gets out of control, maybe people will look to older systems, older games. Maybe there'll just be more of a focus on just those indie. studios and games. What say you, Dante?
I would definitely say in because I'm looking at it in both perspectives, right? As someone who's wanting to get into the industry, as people who are already in the industry, and then people maybe who don't want to get in the industry, but just like players and gamers. And so it's just a little interesting just trying to combine all this, but do the best I can. I do foresee more indie studios opening in the future. I mean, for one, there's a lot more control over how you develop a game versus a big company, right? I mean, that's just for any type of industry. You have more control over the decision-making processes of your game development, your art stage, your programming stage, your design stage, for your QA stage. And so you're not being really told what to do all the time if you're one to co-head a studio. You're the one in charge. You're the one that has, more legs in the race, if you will. And even if you're not the co-head, let's just say, for example, it's like a 10-person team, you still have more of an influence in the game that you make versus somebody that's like a 500 company. You're going to be, making somebody else's vision in both scenarios. But I feel like personally in the indie studios, you have more of like a say so, of what can go on. Um, as far as like the player's perspective, I do see a lot more gamers. I think there are just a lot more gamers in this time period anyway, because one, because of COVID, two, just because of how life has changed in so many different ways for a lot of people. And gamers are not just people that are playing on the console, like you were saying, or I play games on my phone.
Oh, dude, mobile
This,
gaming is huge. Jeez,
yes,
whole industry.
and
Yeah.
I just feel like it's going to like the indie game market, the mobile game market, any other type of game that's like I guess I don't know how to say this, maybe not underused, but aren't as like big as console gamers are probably just really going to take off now because of, like you said, affordability. And it's just they're still having those great experiences in the indie games, just like in the console games. And so, I've played indie games before, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing, And so I do see console games still lasting, but I just don't know for how long. Like for me, like I'm saying this on the record. When the PS6 first comes out, I am not getting it because I already know it's going to be off the chart expensive. And I just feel like for me, at some point, as a consumer, as someone who plays games, at some point you're just gonna have to say enough is enough. Like I got, let me see, one, two, three, four. I got like five consoles. So at some point, I can't keep getting a new console even every 8 years. Like that's just for me, that's just too much. I'd rather have, if you can make a comparison, I'd rather have one console, right? Let's just say I scratch out the console I have. One console, play all the games that I can on that one console instead of having to buy all these new ones. And I think I've actually spoken to people that are PC gamers, and that's one of the reasons they're just staying PC because they're tired of like buying a new console all the time. And I get it, and then having to keep up with. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my PS5. It's amazing, but I ain't gonna get no PS6 right away. I tell you that. Like I just rather just keep my money and kind of like I was saying earlier, going if there are newer games or if I'm missing out on stuff, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with missing out on PS6 games. I'm totally okay with that because at the end of the day, I can always go back to my catalog and play all the other games that I have. So
I
it
mean,
is what it is.
there's a lot of people online that reckon that we're witnessing or have witnessed the death of console gaming. Do you think that's true?
Um, I don't know. It's probably split for me, like from what I've seen. Like kind of to our point, I feel like I don't really care for that console stuff. And to some people I've spoken to is like, well, what's the difference between I can have a great experience playing on PC, have everything that I need on PC. I'm used to using PC. Why am I going to console? And to be fair, I'm like, well, it's just about your preference. I do play games on PC too. So this is why this is a very interesting thing because I'm an all like I play mobile games, I play indie games, I play PC, I play console. I mean, I just play play it all pretty much. So I think that's why I can speak to so many different areas. And I understand when people are like, I'm not going to purchase a console. I just don't have the money to. I don't have the time to. I don't have the, you know what I mean? Yeah, I think even in games and stuff, like I know gamers that used to be heavy gamers back in the day, and they're not heavy gamers anymore because it's not just the price. They just don't have time to spend, diving into, let's say like Skyrim, for example. They just don't have time to dive into that, go through all the quests, do all that kind of stuff. Like I feel like there's a complexity to games these days in some games. And it's like, let's scale this back a little bit so we don't want to make people run away. I think having too big of a game could be a deficit. So you just have to again kind of know as a player what type of, I don't think there's anything wrong with exploration games. I don't think there's anything wrong with Skyrim, but you just have to kind of know what game will work for you. And
Hmm.
if you don't want to buy a console, you don't have to buy a console. Nobody's forcing you to buy a console. You have your options. And that's what I want to let people know today. You have your options when it comes to games.
Would you say PC is truly better than console gaming?
Um, PC better than console. I can't really speak to that because even though I do play PC, I don't play a lot of PC. Like I play more, even though I am kind of breaking away from games generally right now, I tend to play more console games because I think that's just because the childhood that I had. I grew up on Sega, I grew up on PlayStation, I grew up on, and so I'm probably gonna steam towards PlayStation that as my go-to console. Um, I will say in these past couple of years, I've transferred over to PC. Like I've played PC and just trying to know like what is so nice about the PC because I used to be
Modding.
yeah,
That's what it is.
exactly. I used to be
Modding.
so against PC like 5 or 6 years ago. Like I don't get what's the big deal about it. And now I can see why people are really into PC. So I think as I begin to really dive deeper into PC games, I really appreciate them all, really, honestly. And so I don't think there's one better than the other. That's just my opinion.
We mentioned mobile gaming earlier. What do you think about mobile gaming?
Now, I think that this is going to take off. Here's why I say that. Because pretty much everybody, with the exception of the rule, everybody has a cell phone. Everybody has apps on their phones. At least I would hope you do in this time. And so in the quick access that you have to go into the app databases and our app stores and find games, like it's just right at your fingertips these days. And to turn on a console, and, I'm not a lazy person, but I just want to give this illustration. But sometimes it can be a lot to turn on a console because you're thinking about, do I really want to play this right now? You're thinking about, do I want to, I don't know if I really want to play this. You're kind of going back and forth, and you have to turn your TV. I mean, there's steps to it. And again, I'm not against taking those steps to play a game, but just to illustrate the point of having your phone, we use our phone probably more than anything, right? And so having that access point, and just for somebody to download a game, like I just feel like that's just, and people are on their phones more than ever now. I just feel like it's just gonna take off. It's just gonna plateau because thousands. I would guarantee you that a lot of people are mobile gaming right now more than anything. And so that's why I believe that it's really gonna take off. And it might even, in a couple of years, it might even outperform consoles. That's weird to even say, but
Ooh, prophetic words, perhaps. Who knows? Who knows? Okay,
it
this
just
is
might. I don't know.
yeah. I think you're onto something, to be honest, especially when it comes to downloading the games. Because Christ, I mean, it takes so long to download some of these bigger games, and now, as we mentioned earlier, you need like hard drives to do it. Um, it's crazy. Here's an interesting one though. I thought for sure this was going to change the industry, and yet it's still, I would argue, almost in its infancy still. We're still trying to kind of get there. I mean, we're seeing it
Mhm.
more and more. Virtual gaming. We're seeing a lot of VR games now. before I came on this show today, I saw a guy playing Skyrim, and he was like messing with the NPCs, asking them with the use of AI whether they believed they were real or not, stuff like that. It was fun. It's
Yeah.
interesting, Like I spoke to this guy called Vin Schvartel on the show recently, and we were talking about things like cybersecurity and the meta war and just kind of like how that's going to affect computers and internet safety and stuff like that. But it obviously does delve into gaming as well and how people interact with things. And a
Mhm.
big part of that is VR. And it's interesting because for sure we thought VR was going to take off and it's going to be the next big thing. And there's people playing and there's definitely interest there, but it's not taken over by any means. And one of the things we brought up in that show with Vin was this idea that one day you might see like people using something akin to like a holodeck that you see on Star Trek, right? Now, where gaming comes into play with that is, well, what would be more awesome than being in the world that you play, right? Immersive, Okay, I'm playing Skyrim. It's great. But what if you're in Skyrim? What if you're like, you get attacked, you feel it, like to some extent. Or I remember seeing, yeah, you know what I mean? But I remember seeing like
Mhm.
one which was one video where a guy is on like this, I don't know how to, it's like a moving platform.
Mhm.
And he had his headset on and his VR headset, sorry. And the idea was that it was supposed to like limit where he could go, but there's almost no limitations. Obviously he can't go any further than that circle plinth that he's on, but it keeps rotating, it keeps moving around. Hence, where you can move moves around. I feel like there's probably going to be a lot, and there already are places where you can go and have that immersive experience with VR, and you have a lot of walking room, and you're unlikely to like walk into a wall or something. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then with the
Mhm.
holodeck and Star Trek, the way it would work is if you get to like a dead end, um, the walls and the environment would change around you and push you in other directions and like kind of force you to move around, but it's limitless almost. And one of the most exciting things that I saw, which takes this to a new level, is there was like a very, I don't know, it was like a fun VR Spider-Man game. I know how much you love Spider-Man. And yeah, so do I. But like, imagine that, like a VR experience where you could be Spider-Man and there was somehow a way to combine that where you're actually moving in the air. Like, obviously in a safe, controlled environment, but you get to feel that exhilaration of being Spider-Man.
Mhm.
I feel like that's the next maybe level for VR gaming is trying to create that immersive experience. What say you, virtual gaming?
Yeah, I think this might shock a lot of people, but I'm not really a fan of VR. Yeah, my couple
What?
of right, dun, dun, dun.
Dun,
My
dun,
couple
dun.
of VR experiences have not been the greatest. I think it's just because of I get like motion sick very quick, very easily, and so. But to your point, I think if they could figure out a way to make it work for I think it would be kind of cool to see that kind of experience where you kind of step into the game. Or what if you didn't even need a VR headset? What if they had something that I don't know. This is just my creative brain talking now. Like you just have pinpoints on your body or something, and you can just or like you have like this system around you that you can step into like this tube. I don't even know what I'm saying right now, but you can you can step into the world like real time and kind of have that experience. I think that would be pretty interesting. I also wonder because I want to think about it on both sides. The caveat to that, like, what if you can't get out of the game? Uh, you know, I don't know how that would be, but I mean, I'm assuming like if you can pause the game, sure, you can quit out the game. But I don't know, I may be thinking about this too far into it, but I just think it would be cool to kind of see that next level of gaming. They could be already working on it.
most likely.
unbeknownst to us.
You mentioned something interesting there. Motion sickness. I get motion sickness with travel. Um, my girlfriend bought me these recently. They're called motion sickness bands.
Oh.
You put them around your wrists. You can take tablets. I think my brother does, but these are brilliant and they do work. I had it when I was on a coach recently.
Hmm.
Game changer. You buy these. They're pretty cheap online. I think they're like £7 or £8. That's probably like $12. And you put them here, and they're directly connected to your pulse. Life changer. I was on this 5.5 hour coach journey, and I was able to sit there and like play games and read and do all these things I love to do without feeling sick. Guys, this is not a sponsorship or anything. Just honestly, get these. If you've got motion sickness, get motion sickness bands.
Wow.
It's a real life changer, and I feel like it would be helpful with something like VR because I know what you mean. Like I've never experienced it myself, but I've certainly had that feeling
Mm,
interacting with certain things where you get sick from too much exposure to it, and people complain a lot about headaches. That's a very common one, which is understandable. It's like right, it's too much. It's like a sensory overload. You need a break from that. Even
yeah.
just gaming in general. Like I remember when I was a kid, and this leads me into my next question. Trying to understand what's like a healthy amount of time to spend playing a game.
Hmm.
I remember like when we were growing up, like there were weekends where maybe I played a bit too long. You know, I like to go out, ride bikes, skateboard, and see friends, all that. But there were times when yeah, maybe I just couldn't be bothered and I just played games. But I remember feeling like ill after a while, just playing too much, and
Hmm.
you had to kind of cut it off at some point. And
Hmm.
as I got older, I just you lose interest. You know, you play for a few hours and you're, I'll do something else, and that's cool. That's good. That's like your body. You're reacting to your body. You're accepting it. But other people either don't have that and they can just play endlessly and never have a problem, or they push through it. They ignore that feeling and then they end up feeling sick.
Hmm.
What would you say is a healthy amount of time to play games? How do you maintain a balance?
Well, yeah, I know for myself, I've definitely gotten to like when I was younger, like you, I would just play games for hours, mostly just on the weekends, and when I had the most free time. And but I would say like I always had like this intuition, like, okay, I think I've had enough for today. I think I'm gonna just put this down and I'll just do my other art projects. I think that's the thing too. Like I had other things that I was doing in the time that actually forced me to get up from gaming. So while I was playing 2 to 3 hours of gaming, after that I would feel recharged because I would work on an art project, or I would read a book or. And I think this kind of works because this, it's individualized for everybody. Because like you said, everybody's gonna be different. There are some people that can do a 24-hour Twitch stream. I'm not that person per se because I know at the third hour I would fall out of my seat. So I think you just have to know who you are as a person, how much you can handle, what you can't handle. And I know for me too, even to the present day, I'll probably spend okay, for instance, like right now I'm streaming Spider-Man 2, but I only stream like first and third Fridays, right? Um, but with the exception of the last stream, which I was almost to 3 hours, and I was like, okay, I might as well, I'm trying to get up now. This game is too great, but I gotta get up, and stop this stream. For the most part, I usually stream 1 to 2 hours. And the reason of that is because I know me and I know that it can be too much for me. I mean, per se, streaming is taking it to a whole nother level anyway, because you're also talking to people. You're also, I mean, there's so many variables to streaming. But just even in gaming itself, right? If you're not streaming, let's say, and you're just gaming, you have to kind of know. I know for me, like I start feeling like a little like my brain fog, starts happening. My eyes start hurting. That's another sign because I've been staring at the screen for too long. Um, yeah, yeah, I know. And at this, I think I just have to just get up and do something else. And I think it's just now programmed in me because at that time I was a child, I just did other stuff with it. That it's like, okay, I've had my gaming experience. It's time to move on. And now, like again, like I'm not even really gaming that much now. And so I think the last time I played like a console game was probably like 4 weeks ago. But I'm okay. Like if if this was like 8 years ago, I would be like, no, I need to play this every week. I need to get through this game. But now it's like there's other stuff that is more priority to me right now, and I don't want to force myself. Like you were saying, I don't want to force myself to have to commit to something, to have to play something, to have to do this and complete this in this time frame because that's just more pressure on myself than I need.
Yeah, it's crazy that, like, especially if you're a streamer, this need to play games. Like, for example, I know it's a kind of a crazy example, but have you heard of this YouTuber and streamer called Boogie2988?
Mm-mm.
Doesn't matter. He was basically one of the original YouTubers, very wholesome in the beginning. Now he's just not a great guy. It's probably the best way I could put it without being too mean, but not a
I know you. I saw you were trying to think about.
well, I don't want to speak ill of people, but at the same time, like, he's done things like lie about cancer and stuff. Like, it's not cool, you know. Especially when you got an audience as well. I mean, I know you can appreciate this. You got a lot of people watching you, listening to you, impressionable people. I have like teenagers that watch and listen to me, and I always think about what kind of example do I want to set?
Yes.
You know, they're going to take the things that I say potentially and apply them to their own lives. You know, it's crazy to me to think because I'm just a small, obscure content creator that does like acting and music. Like I'm a nobody, right? And but there are some people that watch and some who have even watched for years, and I'm like, wow. In a way, I'm kind of part of their childhood, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, the big thing that hit me was like when you start getting messages from people and they're like, "Hey, this got me through a hard time." This, and I was like, "Okay, now I understand the implications. Now I understand the responsibility of what we're doing." Taking it back to this guy, same thing. Really disappointing to see some of that, and I don't know. I think we can just do better. That's probably the best thing I could say about that. But anyway, the reason that I brought this up was that in one time he was talking about his expenses either on a documentary that he was on or it was a stream, but he mentioned how much he spends on video games. Now, obviously,
Mm.
we've illustrated in this podcast like how expensive video games are. Fair enough. But he was speaking about it like, oh, this game came out and I had to own it. I had to play it because it's popular, because people need to see it, see me play it, etc. There was like a compulsion to have to do it, which is
Mm.
crazy. As a streamer, you should just play what you want to play. But in order to, I suppose, remain popular, be ahead of the curve, be relevant, I hate that word, you have to play the games that are the most popular, the ones that everyone's talking about, and this just goes back to childhood again, really, doesn't it? Like, oh, got to have the latest thing, got to be in the know. And I just think that's crazy because it's like we're talking about games, video games, a thing which was invented for fun. I
Yeah.
still can never get away from that. I know it's an industry. I know there's money in it. I know, and we'll get into some of that in a second. But like, it's still fundamentally a thing that's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be stress. And if it is stress, maybe it's time to unplug from the matrix and get out there a little bit and come back to it later.
Mm.
Like I
Yeah,
always,
I agree.
you ever
Like
play? Go on.
it's ridiculous. Like and because I've been streaming for a while now, and I can say I don't care about any of that. I'm gonna play what I feel like is best, and I'm gonna keep fun and positivity all in my stream. So I'm open to people if they want to recommend games, I'm open to that. But I'm never gonna be to the point where it's like I gotta stay relevant and I gotta be on top of the world and I gotta have, the most whatever. I don't care about any of that because at the end of the day, if me who I am, I know that I'm not gonna have fun if I feel like, oh my gosh, I have to do this and I do XYZ, I have to do ABC, I gotta play the most relevant game. I gotta play the game that just came out. I gotta, it just drives me bananas even trying to think about that, because I'm so opposite of that. Like it's like I'm gonna play the game that I want to play and I'm gonna contribute to it in some type of fun way, whether it's just came out or whether it didn't. It can be a game. Look, I mean, actually, like I think it was like last November or October, I started playing Psychonauts. That was a game that came out way before. I mean, that was like the PS2 days almost. But the reason I wanted to play it was because I wanted to see what that game was like. It was a crazy game, but I had fun while playing it. And I think that's really the point. It's not to feel like, oh my gosh, I have to do what everybody wants me to do. No, how do you expect to have like the core of who you are as a being? Because then I feel like too, it can become like more about them, what they want you to do, what they want you to play. How many views do you have? I don't even pay attention to that stuff because I don't care. I don't want to get wrapped up in myself to the point where it's like I got to keep refreshing the page to see how many views I'm getting, how many people, why aren't people chatting with me right now? Why? I mean, I think I was like that in the beginning
Yeah.
because I think as you're trying to grow your channel, you can kind of get like that. You know what I mean? But I'm to this point now where it's like I don't care about none of that. I'm just gonna click the live button, have fun, and click it off.
I'm the same, dude. After 5 years of doing this, 5 long years, I've been everywhere. I've done TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, you name it, right? I
Mhm,
can never get more than about 10, maybe 20 if I'm lucky, people in the room. I just pay attention to the people that keep showing up, the people that seem to like what I do. I show up for them. I show up for me. I want to have a good time, like yourself, enjoy what we're doing. But yeah, I mean, it sucks. You put all this time and effort into something, you want it to succeed, and when it doesn't, it is frustrating. But then if you do obsess too much over the numbers, you get too far away from what really matters, and it affects the content. Like I feel like I'm making the best content I've ever made right now because I enjoy it the most. I feel like
mhm.
this podcast is a good example of that because, and I've said this a million times, so like I'm sure my listeners are really bored of me saying this. I do apologize, but look, it's fact. Things are better when you're invested, when you enjoy what you're doing.
Mhm.
This show was always supposed to be about talking to people, having good conversations. I've had inspiring conversations, motivational conversations, funny, silly, sad, you name it, and I've let it evolve in of itself. It's become a show about having good conversations, interviewing people in a relaxed way, and just trying to get the best out of people, which I think is all you can ever really ask in life. But when it does become too much about the money or the numbers, it starts to become a problem. There's a video game I played a lot when I was a kid. I adore it. I think it's one of the best games ever made. Tony Hawk's Underground.
I think I either played a part of the demo or I heard of it though. I
Go
loved it.
out of your way to play it. It's one
Yeah.
of the best. It's probably the best Tony Hawk's game for sure, skateboarding game.
Mhm.
Everyone says skate, but like maybe it's a generational thing. I loved it. It was amazing. But I remember there's a scene towards the end of the game. I'll give you a little bit of context for this. So basically, what happens is in the storyline, your character goes from like New Jersey, deadbeat town. There's no one there, and him and his like best friend, who then becomes his rival later on, um, they go into the skating world and they get signed and all this. And basically, his rival just continuously tries to screw him over and screws him over big time in a lot of different ways. And honestly, the storyline for that game is fantastic. If nothing else, play it for that and for the hours of entertainment you're going to have skateboarding. But anyway, his rival screws him over in like the biggest way possible, and he's got like limos and rich. He's rich and he's got all these like deals and everything. And the main character hasn't really got anything left. He's been kicked off the team. He's got nothing. Um, but he turns around to this guy Eric and he says, "It was never about the money. I still have a few real friends left." And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, whatever. Go tell that to your friends. Blah 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 blah. Who cares? I'm gonna go on my jet or whatever." And he's sitting there talking to this guy, Stacy Peralta, who is a real life guy, by the way. Used to skateboard back in the 70s. Anyway, in the
Mhm.
game, he's like the guy who gave you your first like sponsorship and signs you up and stuff. And he's back in New Jersey. He's back in the town where it all started, right? And he's just sitting there reflecting with him, and he's like, "Oh, I just don't understand where it went wrong." And Stacy turns around to him and just basically says something to the effect of, you've forgotten what it means to do this. You know, just go out and skate. You'll remember why you started in the first place. I always think back to that whenever I get a bit disheartened by what I'm doing. Like, the music's not going anywhere. The acting's not going anywhere. My podcast isn't going anywhere. I haven't got enough followers. I haven't got enough views. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, why did I start doing this in the first place? Well, I started because I felt like I had something to share. I felt like I could entertain people. I wanted to do it. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to try something, push myself. And I think that's the important thing to cling on to. I don't know if you and I will ever, like, quote unquote, hit it big, become super successful content creators, gamers, game designers, actors. Who knows? We don't know what the future says. But I think if nothing else, if we can just cling on to hold on to why we do it in the first place and enjoy the process, enjoy just doing it, enjoy gaming, enjoy streaming, enjoy being creative people, just have
Right.
fun, enjoy life. I think if nothing else, that is alluring. That's what draws people in. No one wants to
Right.
sit and hear you complain, and Lord knows I've spent way too much time complaining. I do apologize. Here's my opportunity right now to set the record straight. I probably will say this again on live later on. I'm tired of feeling sad about stuff. I'm tired of feeling like downtrodden, disheartened, overlooked, all that. Um, I know I have something to offer. I'm going to keep offering that. If the world doesn't want to listen, no worries. I'm still going to try anyway. And I'm still going to enjoy every single second of it because it's fun. And that's what it should be. It should be about having fun and trying to put some positivity and happiness into the world. And hopefully people enjoy it.
Yes, because I think that's really what it's all about. And many people have different definitions of success. Like, I don't view it as having the most views or how many people liked it or if people are showing up or if people are clapping and applauding. Because to be completely 100% honest, people can be there for you one day and then gone the next. So you can't base your success off of people applauding you and cheering for you. While that's great to have, your main succession should be within you. Like it should be like I'm making content that I believe is going to touch and inspire other people, whether they clap or cheer or not, you know? And I believe that's what I do with my content. Like you said, I've had moments too where it's like, oh my gosh, why didn't people watch this? And then I'm like, nope, nope, nope. Going back to the beginning of why I'm streaming on Twitch. It's to have fun, but it's actually a responsibility and a weight there, you know, because it's like you're being the face of so many black gamers for one, and then for two, like you're showing people how it is to have like this position of godliness, positivity, keeping it real, you know, and moving forward and kind of doing like we're doing today, you know, and being transparent and being able to share. Like I still do have moments where it's like, why what I don't I have 20 views? That should have 100. But then I always remind myself, no, we're not doing it for views. We're doing it because I enjoy creating content. The moment that I put out my first video, YouTube video, was way back when, and I wanna have that same kind of feeling where I didn't care about the views. I was just producing, I was just having fun, I was just making content. And regardless of, you know, I didn't have really great technology back then either. So I feel like now that I have the technology to really, you know, make it big and do, and by making it big, I mean like not in the eyes of other people, but within myself, like do the best that I can do. That's what I mean. And show the best self and best self representation of who I am. And really, the most important thing is showing godliness to other people. Then all that other stuff don't matter, really.
Amen, brother. You touched on it a little bit. I just want to delve into this a little bit. So my original question was like, how do you feel about diversity and representation in video games? I'd like to touch on that a little bit. I think we did a little bit in the previous episode as well, but something that you said was interesting there. You're like, you're talking about being a black gamer, and I'm like, that's interesting. Like, talk about that for a second. Like, I'm imagining there's people that reach out to you that are like, oh, this is cool. I like what you're doing. I want to do this too. Like, talk about the impact that you're having on people.
Oh my gosh, the amount of okay, first of all, I have to go back to dealing with my own past self. So I can't really be an example to other people if I don't deal with the root causes of feeling like self-doubt and like some traumas like even with our past episode we're talking about like me being bullied and like all these trauma experiences that I've had and many other people like you guys are listening have too and watching um and I think really the main thing is you have to deal with the root of your problems like and I noticed that they started producing certain behaviors which made me also fed into like how many views I have. So this stuff all connects to why am I not dealing with like the root problem? Like, why am I trying to prove myself to other people who I am when I know who I am? You know what I'm saying? And I think it all goes back to dealing with the root problems, dealing with the root causes of who I am, really in God. That's really that's the makeup of who I am, and that's how I have worked through a lot of the past things I've dealt with. And so for people that reach out to me like, I like your content, I like what you do, or like you even said, like, hey, I'm having a rough time. Some people show up on stream like, I don't know what I'm doing in life, and right then and immediately I feel like the weight of that because I've been there so many times. There are still days where I'm like, I don't know if I really want to get out of the bed right now because this is a lot. But I remind myself that I have a purpose, I have a calling and it's really to help other people. So that goes into alignment with that. My real purpose here is to help other people. Forget about all the accolades and all that other kind of stuff and accomplishments that I've done. I'm here to really help people. So and being transparent and sharing the processes of my life. And I think through streaming and being a black gamer, there's a responsibility to that. And I didn't even think about this till a couple of years ago because I kind of stepped away from gaming a bit because I was like, I don't know if I want to stream on Twitch anymore. This is crazy. My schedule was crazy. I was streaming like every week. I was streaming for too long. I mean, it was just ridiculous like the amount of time I was putting into this. But when I thought about the influence that I had on other people, I feel like that's when things started changing for me because it's not just I'm just going in and I'm streaming. It's that I'm being a influence, a positive influence of not just what's like how to play a game and all that kind of stuff, but really to see how people are doing. I mean, really to check in on people. And if nobody's there, you better believe that somewhere in that stream, I'm going to encourage people. So somehow or another, like I'll talk about my week, or I'll talk about how things are going me currently, or I kind of, if nobody's there, I kind of pretend like I'm recording a YouTube video. So that's what kind of helps me deal with why aren't people showing up? Well, I just do like a let's play and just, me recording stuff. So, and I think that's another thing that's helped me like get past that. So as a black gamer, it is a responsibility and it's also a reward to know that people come to me asking me like, what avenue should I go? Should I try streaming? Should I not try streaming? And again, it's really just based on what you want to do. Because when I started streaming, let me tell you, that was not looking good for me. Because it was like I had all this stuff coming to my brain. Like, first of all, I don't think I had the right equipment. I mean, this is way back in 2014 when Twitch really started. Because I think before that was like Justin TV or something like that.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
and so I was like, that's when I started. And I was like, I don't know if I had the right equipment. I don't have a camera because back then I was streaming on my PS4. I don't think I have the right voice for this. So you can imagine like all this self-doubt and that's what I'm talking about, dealing with those root issues. I'm started thinking about, oh my, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have something else. And really, if you don't work through those things, it's gonna be hard for you to share your life to other people. and I think in that moment I've always been a person who is transparent. And I go through struggles just like you go through struggles, just like many people go through struggles. Like we have our days where we just want to just quit all of it and just say, forget about it. I'm done with this. Peace out. And you have to be transparent and honest to share those moments with other people. And I think that is what I'm talking about as far as like the responsibility portion of it. And now I'm living in the reward of it. So I'm saying that how my influence over these years have helped other people. And to be honest too, I look at other people. So it's not like I'm just like, oh, I wonder how many people look up to me. I'm not even getting wrapped into that. I always look forward to connecting with other people like yourself, and it always encourages me because you know we I don't care what this world calls us, like small content creators, because at the end of the day, we're doing what we love, and it doesn't matter. Because I've seen big content creators not pay attention to the Twitch chat, or not care about their audience, or disrespect their audience, or like you were saying in your example. So I don't ever want to get to the point where if I do become big in the eyes of people, which again, I'm okay being a small content creator. I can be a small content creator for the rest of my life and not give a hoot, because I know who I am myself. I'm not small. I am somebody. Yeah. So it don't matter what other people deem me as, as long as I know who I am, and um and that's the influence I think I have on people. And again, it's just dealing with a lot of stuff within myself, and I'm still on the journey because I still have my moments, but we're making it through.
Damn, man, some beautiful words there, man. Yeah, great, good, great guy. You're a great guy. Thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
All right. Final questions for you. Just random questions in general. Feels weird to go to queue up this question after that. Like I feel like that was such a like natural ending, like just beautiful sentence. But I still have some stuff I want to ask you.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on esports?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
that was it. That's just what your
Oh,
thoughts on
okay.
esports.
I haven't really gotten much into it, honestly. Um, I don't know if it's because I haven't really like I've definitely heard about it, like if like the Overwatch leagues and stuff like that, but I haven't really paid much attention to it. Um, I think if people are looking to get into esports, I definitely think it's an interesting career path to take. Um, I definitely say do your research. Because even in going into what we were saying, like how you can game so much and just you could be gaming for the wrong reasons, because really their job is, you're making money gaming. So I can see how that can become enticing. But after a while, you kind of have to think about, do you want that type of job to be your full-time job? And it's okay if you do. I mean, it really is. I know for me, I don't want that. I don't want gaming to become my job because I want to keep it in that hobby lane. Like I think for me personally, I it would become a job, like oh, I gotta do this and I gotta do that and I gotta I just wanted to stay in that fun lane. Now for art it's a little bit different because I think I don't know, it's weird. It's like I have two separate brains. Like for art, I can be paid to do what I do and it be glamorous and wonderful and all that kind of stuff. But for whatever reason, gaming, I just want to stay in that hobby lane. And it's probably because too, I do more art than gaming. I work on more side projects than gaming, so that's probably another aspect of it. But again, for those of you who do want to do esports, do your research. Definitely, it's definitely an interesting career path. And from the stuff I've seen, it seems interesting. Every once in a while, I may see like you know, I even maybe be by accident. I click on a YouTube video, esports thing going on. I'm like, what? I didn't even click on this, but I'll just watch it just to see what's going on a little bit. And I'm like, huh. So they're like people are like in teams and calling out plays and all that kind of stuff. Hey, it could be interesting, but I don't really foresee myself going down that path personally.
Yeah, I've always looked at it and gone like, I feel like it could suck the fun out of it. Like I used to know a guy who was big into like COD gaming back in the day, and he did like esports teams and all that, and he got to like Los Angeles finals and all that. It's crazy. Um, but I was like, can you really enjoy it anymore? Like I was like, do you enjoy playing the game still? And he's like, well, sometimes. Yeah, like other times it's just it feels like just something you have to do, which I don't know. Like one thing I focused on with what I do is kind of less is more approach. I'm scaling back. A lot of that is to do with timing and just, for instance, it takes a lot to do like a podcast, you know. And like for the longest time, I've been doing um podcast every week and then at least one Patreon show. That's 5 shows a month. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, plus like a full-time job, streaming, having a girlfriend, doing all these different things. It's a lot, man. What kind of crazily. But I'm like, you know what? It would be better to scale this back, and that will make it more fun. Like with the podcast, I'm going to do that. I'm going to probably just have it like twice a month, and yeah, it is fun. Like for instance, this has been the first show I've done in like maybe a week and a half, I think, give or take. I was looking forward to it. I was like, oh, I hope the show happens. I'm in the mood for it. You know, it's a good topic that we've got, and it has been. It's been a fun conversation, and it's been a good reminder of like why I do this. And you know, you got some really wise words and stuff, and it's like, yeah, this is what it's about, man. And you mentioned earlier about how the world is a lot about instant gratification these days. There's like a lack of patience. I think by scaling things back a little bit, you can kind of recapture some of that. You can enjoy it more, enjoy the process more. You know, I look forward to like podcasting and live streaming more now than I did when I was like quote unquote trying to make it because it's like it's fun now.
Mhm.
Like I still have goals, I still want to push it, you know, and work hard, but now I enjoy it more. And I think if you enjoy it more, it'll be better, to be honest.
Yes, yes. I have to tell you this. So kind of like you, like in the beginning when I first started streaming. Okay, first of all, I was like, okay, is this for me? Right? All that self-doubt we talked about earlier. But then when I got to the point where I was like, okay, I can see myself doing this, seems pretty cool. I was Fridays I was streaming 3 times. Saturdays I was streaming 2 times. Sunday I was streaming 2 times. And I also had a game internship and going to college. Now, and that time I was like, I'm just loving it. I'm just doing it and I'm great. And, da, da, da. And now I look back at that moment and I'm like, first off, why was I doing it that much? And then secondly, like, no wonder I got burnt out. It's because I was just doing it way too much. And so I feel like even now, like with the schedule that I have, is so much better. Like you said, less is more. I'm finding more enjoyability playing games now than I ever have. And I'm not playing as much as I used to. Like it's crazy. Like I'm coming back to these games, I'm like, oh man, this is so much fun. And then I'll take like a 5 week break. And it's not because I don't like the game. It's just, kind of like we were saying, like it's just it can take a lot out of you and you have other things that are more of your priority. And you want to kind of step back from it because you understand like I enjoy this, but I don't enjoy it as much as I used to. And that's okay. And going back to the beginning of our podcast, actually, like it's okay to kind of step away from things in your life. Things are going to change. So I think it's more applaudable to recognize that something's changing and change it than like force it because it's like this is always the way I've been doing it. Like I could not even imagine if I was streaming that much now. Like I would be like, no, y'all, I can't do this.
Dude, same as you. I did the same thing when I first started. I streamed every single day. I did the same thing as you, like recording it because there was no one there. So I was like, oh, I treat it like a let's play. Did all that stuff. We've got a lot of similarities here. It's funny. And like, for instance, TikTok, I used to upload 3 times a day, every day for about a year and a half. It's crazy, right? You know, and yeah, there was a bit of progress, nothing to write home about, but I just looked at it like, what am I doing? Like, where am I going? Yeah, I ended up deleting like a lot of videos, a lot of old shows, and yeah, it does kind of suck the fun out of it a little bit. And it really shouldn't be like that. When I look at some of like my favorite podcasts, for example, the best ones are just conversations, good structured conversations. I think Joe Rogan is like the big one. That's like I did model my show a lot after that, as far as like the more laid back aspect to it. Like if you pay attention, like
Mhm.
yeah, obviously everyone's got an opinion about him. I understand that it's controversial. A polarizing figure is probably the best way to put it. But the actual show itself, how it's structured, I feel like he always, I'd say 90% of the time, he gets the best out of his guests. And he interviews a lot of different people. Some people he clicks with like that. Other people he has to push them a bit more. But he does his research every time. That team that he's got together that's working with him, he sits down, he does his research about his guests, he knows what to ask them. Other people that have a bit more fun, and it's a group of guys, but they've been doing it for so long, like Painkiller already, PKA is a really good example of that. They have each of them their own backstories, fun stories that they share. When they have guests on, I feel to for the most part they get the best out of their guests. Sometimes it's not so great, but then it comes down to a lot of when it comes to doing a good podcast. I think it comes down to the level of effort you put in and the research you put in, but also are both people there wanting to have a conversation. This is
Right.
huge. This is such a big part of this, and I feel like it's the same with content creation, man, and streaming. Like, are you just there going through the motions, doing your thing, or are you trying to have a good time and make it really fun for the people in the audience? You know?
Yeah. Yes. There have been so many times where I'm like, I have to actually think about why am I doing this? And I don't mean that in like a bad way, but like, what's the reason I'm doing this? You know what I mean?
Mm,
And so I think that just kind of helps me get through those moments because I definitely have taken my breaks from streaming because everybody needs a break. I don't care who
absolutely.
you are and what you do.
Agreed. What's the worst game you've ever played and why?
The worst game I have ever played. Um, I may have to think about this one. And I only say that because I have so many games I don't like. So I gotta like put these things in categories in my head. So let's see. The worst game I have played. There's this one, gosh, Returnal. I'm
Okay.
sorry, Returnal fans. I apologize. But I just could not get into this game. For whatever reason, I felt like I was just kind of thrown to the wolves. And I was kind of having those moments as we talked about earlier, where it's like you kind of have to know when to kind of get, like, okay, I'm just gonna pause from this and come back to it. Or like I can persevere through this. It's a hard boss fight, but I can get through this. And then when it's like you just have to throw it away. Well, the first couple of times that I played it, I didn't really know, how to categorize it. But I think after a while, after a month, I was like, yeah, this game ain't for me. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I can't. It seems like I'm making progress. Like, have you ever had that feeling like you're making progress, but then you're not making progress at the same time? Like that's how I felt when I was playing that game. Like I don't really know what I'm doing. First of all, you throw me into a game, into this alien planet with all these enemies, and just say, just go search for stuff, and then shoot all these enemies. But then it's like endless, and I'm like, okay, no, I need something with a little bit more structure. Um, and maybe something leading up to that point. But don't just I actually don't like when I have all these weapons all at first. Like I rather build up to that moment because I feel like overwhelmed. So Returnal would have to be for me. I'm sorry, Returnal fans, but yeah.
What's the best game you've ever played and why?
So the best game I've ever played was. Did you see how easy this one was?
Of
The best game I ever played was Ratchet and Clank Future: A Crack in Time.
course,
And I
yes.
would have grabbed it, but it's okay. The reason being is there's some like a micro or mini story to this. So back in like 2009, my brother and I, for countless years, used to always visit our dad in Maryland and um, his brother, our uncle, and we would see his side of the family down there and spend time for Christmas. And so it was around like the 2009 time because I believe that's when this game came out. And I would oftentimes we would just be in the room just playing Madden together. We would be having like competitions and NCAA and stuff like that. But there would be moments where we could kind of play our own games, and me and my brother would be in the room, and he would have I don't know how many systems this dude would have. Like I think he still has them. Like he had a GameCube, he had like all these systems, and so we would play like Zelda. But there was this Ratchet and Clank Future of Cracking Time. I saw him playing this, and I immediately gravitated towards it. I don't know what it was, but I was like, I have got to get this game for myself because this is an amazing game. And he started like telling me all about like the game and all that kind of stuff. And my aunt too, like she was on my dad's side. Oh my gosh, my aunt and uncle are both gamers, so they really started downloading all this Ratchet and Clank knowledge into me. And I was like, okay, yeah, okay, I can see myself playing this. So I got back home and I got the game, and I was just blown away by it. Like, not only was the story good, the character art was good, the graphics were good, and this was for PlayStation 3. And for that time, the graphics were superior. The story was superior. Like, it felt like I was watching a movie from DreamWorks that was like really good, you know? Like for me, a classic, well, this is Pixar, but a classic movie is like Toy Story. Like for me, it was like that, but like playing the game, if you will, you know? So I just felt like it was just an amazing experience. And I think this was probably one of the first times I got immersed into a game. And so I would play this game for hours and I had to detach from it. And I noticed that this is one of those times where I was like, okay, I think I better detach from this game. And even now, no, I'm not even kidding. Even now, like I have to, when I come back to this game, I have to be like, okay, I played my 2 hours. I got to detach. I got to do some other stuff because it just, you don't even have to play all the other games. You can literally start from this story, you know, and it makes you, it almost makes you, they do it in such a trickery way. It makes you want to get all the other games. And so I have all the other games, of course. I'm a Ratchet and Clank. I'm a Insomniac Games is one of my favorite studios. They made the Spider-Man games. They made the Spyro games. You know, they've done all these amazing games. And so Ratchet and Clank, when I really like delve into the story and the gameplay and just the humor in this game, I mean, I was on the floor laughing. Like, I think this is one of the first times too when I experienced like humor in a game that I actually got and was for kids, might I might add. And it was just an impeccable game. And even to this day, like I'll come back to it and I'm not even lying, like it's probably like my 10th playthrough of this game. And I never get tired of it just because it's just amazing. And I'm sure you probably know that by now, just by the way I'm talking about. This is an amazing game.
What do you think? What do you think makes a video game truly great or memorable?
How it connects to the player. And a perfect illustration of this is I feel like just for example, I don't know if you played this game called Heavy Rain, but
Yeah, I think I've heard of this.
yes, it's made from Quantum Dream. Quantic Dream, I think. It's the developer. They've done Detroit Become Human. They've done
Yes.
Beyond Two Souls and stuff like that. So Heavy Rain was one of those games for me where I connected to the game in such a way that I felt like it was every decision was crucial. Like it was one of those games where the story would change based on your decisions. So this was one of the first games I've ever played that was like that. So if you can imagine, I was like, wait a minute, I had to take, I had to take a lot
Anxiety,
of
the
time.
game.
Yes, I'm not even kidding. It provided so many things. Like the first choice, do I turn and walk away? Second choice, do I say something to him? You know, I mean, it's just like, oh my gosh. The third choice was like, because it was like one of those action-packed games. So it was like, do I stab him or something? I'm like, what? I don't know what I'm doing. And so I had to think about it. And there were some decisions too that were very quick. Like I remember he was not to spoil anything, but like he was on the highway driving and avoiding traffic. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it would like it's a jerk the stick left, jerk the stick right, and then you know it's like those action button sequences, and I'm like, oh no,
Oh, I hate those.
yeah, like I don't
Mm,
know about this.
mm.
So I felt at that a couple of times, needless to say, but I got it. Um, I think it was just one of those games that just really impacted me in a way because the story was so. First of all, I love detectives type stories. Like this is one of my favorite, even shows and stuff. Like I love detectives. I'm probably part detective because I love mysteries and I love seeing how things end, and I love um different like I don't want like the same story. I want a surprise to come. And I feel like this game had lots of surprises for me. I was like, I was not expecting that. What? And so that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. Like, I feel like a great game makes it in a way where you can connect to the player, have throw some surprises in there. Sure, you can add in some good graphics. Sure, why not? Just put that in there. But more than anything, like you need to be able to connect with people that leaves from the game and makes you want more from the game. Like when that game was over, I was like, "Oh, what am I gonna play next?" So yeah, I love it. I love that game.
You said you like detective and mystery. Do you ever play LA Noire?
I have not yet, but it's on my list.
Oh,
My
oh,
brother,
you need to play that game, brother. Oh my
yeah, my
God.
brother has played it, but I haven't played it yet.
Yeah, I won't spoil it, but that's a game you need to play. It will,
Okay.
you'll be addicted. Right. I got a final question for you, which I think, well, actually two questions. But final question for the video games.
Mhm.
What have video games taught you about life?
Excuse me. I almost had like a birthday or something. So going off the first first episode, I kind of did talk about how when I was playing the latest Ratchet and Clank game, like perseverance and how to not give up as I was fighting through like the boss, and many different enemies in that arena. I think overall, though, I would say video games have taught me patience. First of all, okay, let me just say this. I'm gonna narrow this down to three things because there can be a lot of things this has taught me, but for the sake of time, patience is number one. So taking my time, not rushing through decisions, um, and really thinking about the decisions I'm making, and also not overthinking decisions too, because I know a lot of times I can a little bit of me can be an overthinker and like, wait, was that the right decision I made in that game? Or you know what I mean? I was like, oh shoot, I probably shouldn't kill that enemy. He's probably gonna do something and resurrect from the dead and kill me later on in the game. Like so
You're
I'd be
just sitting
overthinking.
about thinking about it at work. You're like,
Yeah,
damn, should I have done that? It's like, oh, did I leave the cooker on? Like,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
ooh.
Stuff that I probably really don't even really need to be thinking about. But I think because I'm such a forward thinker, it's like, and to be honest too, sometimes that stuff has happened. I'm like, oh my gosh, he don't resurrected. I thought I killed him. He don't resurrected from the dead. What's happening here? And or like, why does this boss have six lives? Like this makes no sense. I've already used all my powers. They're not giving me any life. So patience. Second thing I think gaming has taught me is to enjoy life. So kind of like how we were already talking about, right? Really enjoying life because there's so many different genres in games and there's so many different possibilities in games. So that's why I feel like games are not going to go anywhere. They aren't going to die. It's going to change, but it's not going to die. That's the difference. And so I think in life, that's the same way. Things change all the time. Of course, I have to utilize patience in areas I really don't want to, but that's life for me. I feel like life is the greatest teacher. Even in bad stuff, I'm a firm believer that even in the stuff that happens to us, that's not necessarily what we would like it to be, or maybe I prayed about a job and it didn't happen yet, or I prayed for my family to be healed and it didn't happen yet, or I'm praying for all these things and it's not manifested, but it's not manifested in the timing that you think, and everything has a timing and a place. So I'm just a really firm believer that no matter what bad happens, and I'm a true testament of this, good can always come out of it, So really being patient and seeing and really enjoying life, taking it one stride at a time. And then the third, final thing I would have to say that gaming has taught me is to take breaks. Believe it or not, it has taught me to take breaks because, as you were saying earlier, we can overdo things to the max, and it's like, yeah, I need to step. I've even had to step away from my art stuff. And maybe some people are like, "Why are you crazy?" But it can just become to the point where I get too much in my head. Even I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but I just finished my Spider-Man project yesterday. But in this process, that has taught it's taken about like a year and a half to complete. And in this process, it's taught me to really take breaks from it. Because if I'm always hitting it and then always like hitting the ground running and always trying to force myself to work on stuff and procrastination is different from taking a break. For me, procrastination is like, oh well, I'll get to it eventually, and whatever happens, happens, and I'll just. But for me, taking a break is like, I'm gonna come back to it in 2 weeks. And I know for me, when I say that, I'm gonna come back to it in 2 weeks because I even mark it down on a calendar that I have. I either put it somewhere in my phone so that I hold myself accountable to that, and so I think that's what doesn't make it a procrastination, if you will, because I know I'm gonna come back to it. I have something that helps me come back to it. So it's the same with gaming. Like I can't run at the same pace all the time and keep playing games either every day or every weekend or whatever. I have to step back from this. And again, it's not because I mean sometimes it could be granted, it could be the game. Maybe it's too much pressure. Maybe it's just getting on your nerves. Maybe it's like I'm gonna throw this controller at the screen. But I would say for me, 95% of the time, it's just I need to take a break. I need to step away. I need to do something else. Um, I need to check in on people. I need to get outside of this gaming world and just do other stuff. Life is too short just to be, and I think this applies to anything really, but it's just too short just to be focused on me, what I do, how I'm gonna make it in life, how I'm gonna persevere, it's about really outreach, helping other people. So yeah. It's taught me a lot of stuff, but I tried to sum it in the 3 points.
Thanks for sharing. Final question for you. Do you have any upcoming projects or final thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yes, so yeah, I didn't even know this was gonna happen, but I did finish my Spider-Man project yesterday, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I'll be posting that on my Instagram. You can follow me at the Ultimate Don Gamer on Instagram. Also DJH underscore gamer on Twitter. I'm not on these platforms a lot, but I do post my art and stuff and, checking in on people, all that kind of stuff, and see what people are up to every once in a while. So make sure to follow me there. Also on Twitch, I'm the Ultimate Don Gamer. If you want to be a part of my streaming journey, check me out on there as well. Or if you just want to chat, I'm on Discord too, the Ultimate Don Gamer. So you can see that there's gaming on every Don thing that I say. But which I think was just a great name for me to have.
It's good
Um,
branding.
but yeah, I think exactly.
There you go.
But yeah, as far as like any other projects, my next project is going to be since I just did Spider-Man Miles Morales, I will be doing Spider-Gwen next.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to be redoing my entire portfolio. And so I'm gonna have 4 Marvel characters, 4 DC characters, 4 X-Men characters, and 4 characters from my own created universe. So I plan on having all this complete by the end of 2027. So yeah, there's that. But I think for right now, I'm just going to take a break, like I was saying, right? Take a break for a little bit and probably come back to it like next month. You know, I'm gonna start that, and then I also have a new project that I'm developing, but I'm gonna keep it a secret.
Ooh.
Go follow me on YouTube, Donte Hawkins, and I'm probably gonna reveal it like next year. But I have all of my I usually upload all my Twitch stuff and highlights to YouTube. And then I also have like a kind of like what's going on life updates thing I don't even know what to call it, like series or something. Well, maybe it's not a series. Just random videos I upload whenever I feel like it to the channel. So you will definitely know about this new project on there. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't think there's anything else. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else. I mean, I do work on music. I work on beats and stuff, so I don't think I'm gonna really put that out to the world to see. But I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to jinx myself, but we'll see.
Well, Dante, it's been an amazing conversation with you. I'd like to say firstly, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, your wisdom, for having the conversation for me, for being on the show again. I loved it the first time, loved it this time. You're always welcome back on the show, brother, and I wish you all the luck in the world. And yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for just having this. I think it's going to be an outlet or a blessing really to other people. And kind of like you were saying earlier, I think that this is actually helping a lot of people. You know what I mean? And I see it, because I subscribe to your channel, of course. I just had to. And because I'm just a diehard fan. And so
Thank
I've
you.
seen the progress and the work that you've done and 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 just having all these guests on there. And it's just been like a great body of work. So keep doing what you're doing. And I know it's going to continue to be a blessing towards other people.
Oh, thank you very much, man. Yeah, I'll keep doing it. I set myself a goal of doing this for about 10 years. We're nearly at 5 years, which is kind of crazy to think about. Nearly 300 episodes. It's really flying by.
Woo!
Yeah, but I enjoy it, and shows like this are always a good reminder of why I do what I do. So thank you so much for being here, man. And I'll make sure to include all the links to you, so that my lovely, wonderful audience will be able to find them. Thank you so much for watching and listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed this show as much as I did. As always, if you like the show, please make sure to like, share, subscribe. If it's on YouTube, follow me on Discord. I've got a Discord server. I'm trying to push this a bit more. All the links that you need for me are in my link tree, and there's a copy of that in on the description for YouTube and for Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those places. You'll always find it in the description if you're interested. Same as all the information about my guests, you'll find that in the description as well. And yeah, if you want to get access to bonus content as well and support me and what I do, go to patreon.com/Christian Reeve and you can support me there. Go check out the links. Go drop your boy Donte Hawkins a follow. And yeah, most importantly, be safe, be well, and I'll see you in the next one.